Many political parties claim to be committed to nonviolence. Many political parties claim to be opposed to violence. This is an absurdity. The entire purpose of a political party is to gain control of the state. The state is a monopoly on violence. The entire purpose of a political party is to enforce its will by winning control of the institution that holds a monopoly on violence. A political party cannot be committed to nonviolence because the entire purpose of a political party is to control the monopoly on violence. Green parties in particular are known to profess a commitment to nonviolence. Such claims cannot be taken seriously. These political parties exist to gain control of the state. The purpose of these political parties is to gain control of the monopoly on violence. I cannot take them seriously when they claim to be committed to nonviolence. Such parties have policy platforms which they seek to implement and enforce through state violence. And that is fine. Violence is not fundamentally evil. You should not pretend to be committed to nonviolence. There is no need to pretend to be committed to nonviolence. Violence is morally neutral. The moral character of violence is defined by the type of violence. Ultimately, political parties are not committed to nonviolence. Their entire purpose is to gain control over the state. Their entire purpose is to gain control of the monopoly on violence. And that is fine. A commitment to nonviolence cannot be taken seriously when you are fighting for control over the state. The reason that parties fight for control of the state is because the state is a monopoly on violence, and only by controlling the monopoly on violence can you implement and enforce your policies. I understand what political parties are trying to say when they claim to be committed to nonviolence. The problem with such claims is that they imply that the state is not a violent entity. They imply that state violence is not violence. This is a very dangerous implication. The claim to be committed to nonviolence implies that violence is necessarily illegal and external to the structure of the society. This is a very dangerous implication. The state is a fundamentally violent political entity, and this should be recognized. To fail to recognize this reality is a serious mistake. I do not want to hear political parties claiming to be committed to nonviolence. The purpose of the political party is to control the fundamentally violent institution that is the state. When such parties claim to be committed to nonviolence, they imply that the state is not a violent entity. This is an extremely dangerous implication. It is an implication that obscures and overlooks structural and systemic violence by implying that violence must be external to the system. The intention of the political party is to gain control over the state. The purpose of the political party is to gain control over the monopoly on violence. This is how political parties implement and enforce their policies. Political parties have fundamentally violent intentions. That is the reality, and to deny it is extremely dangerous. The state is the most violent institution in the world. That this is not widely recognized is shocking to me. People assume that violence is necessarily criminal, illegal, external to the state. In reality, the state is the most violent institution that there is. No individual has the capacity for violence that is possessed by the state. The individual assaults, the state goes to war. All of the greatest acts of violence have been committed by the state. This is because the state is a monopoly on violence. The state engages in violence and enforces its will with the ever-present threat of violence. Disobey the state and it will fine you. Refuse to pay the fine and it will imprison you. Refuse to be imprisoned and it may just kill you. The state is a violent entity. We must recognize this reality. I am not assigning any normative weight to this. This is just the reality. Political parties that claim to be committed to nonviolence obscure this reality.